Hey, how you doing? Welcome into another episode of the Sports Hub right here on SBTV. I'm Alex Strouf. Alongside me, as always, Mike Wengrzyn, Jackson Jirik. Guys, happy Monday. How was the weekend?
Phenomenal.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Phenomenal. It was great. Had a blast hanging out with my friends. The XFL was on.
Yeah.
I got to watch football in February. That wasn't the Super Bowl, so it was great. It was good. Michael?
Yeah, I had a good weekend. My roommate's girlfriend came up, so the three of us went downtown, had a good time down there.
Good.
Other than that, didn't really do all too much, but hey, we got to watch some football over the weekend, even though the NFL season's done, and hey, it was good.
We'll get to football briefly. I'm sure we all made terrific decisions all weekend long. But today we're talking about trade news in both the MLB and NBA, the inaugural weekend of the 2020 season, college basketball, and do a classic round of buy or sell, all after this. This past week was a busy one for trades in not one, but two of the big four professional leagues. We start out in the NBA, where both conferences had teams making deals at the trade deadline. Notable players who will be wearing new jerseys include D'Angelo Russell, Andre Iguodala, Andrew Wiggins, and Robert Covington, among others. With several teams making multiple deals, which teams do you guys think reap the biggest benefit post-trade deadline in the NBA?
Minnesota Timberwolves, without a doubt. They looked like a brand new team against the Clippers. Malik Beasley was insanely good, and they dominated arguably the second best team in the league. And they didn't even have their second best player in D'Lo now that he got traded to the Timberwolves. So they look like a whole new team. Obviously, one game way too early, but they look good. Timberwolves, I think, got a big helper there, and D'Lo and Beasley and I think they got 7 new guys, I want to say. So that's crazy. The Heat getting a championship type caliber player in Andre. So I think they benefited from that a little bit. They needed a leader, I think, over there in Miami. The Warriors got a good player in Wiggins. We'll see how he goes once Steph gets back and they're healthy. I don't think, obviously, they won't be making any playoff run, but next year it could be interesting to see where they're at with him. But definitely the Timberwolves, biggest team that won this year in the trade deadline.
The Minnesotan shouting out the Timberwolves. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, you sure gave a lot of credit to Minnesota there. But I will say, though, that they have been, in the years, trying to find a trade partner, somebody suitable for Andrew Wiggins to go out somewhere else. It's not that Wiggins wasn't necessarily a reliable player, but he wasn't necessarily the guy that Minnesota got from in the Cleveland trade years ago when that happened. So, like, now with all the pieces and stuff like that, and, of course, you got Karl Anthony Towns there, who's the leader of the Timberwolves. They'll be interesting to watch in the Western Conference, I think, next year if things shake out differently. But in terms of other teams that won trades, the Miami Heat, man, they're fourth right now, I believe, in the Eastern Conference. And they do have Jimmy Butler down there, and it's a different team this year because Dwayne Wade is no longer with the Heat. He's no longer in the NBA anymore. So to get a guy like Andre Iguodala, a guy who's experienced, guy who's been on multiple championship teams, have him down there probably to help make the Heat have a little bit of a playoff push there towards the end of the season. I don't think they're going to be anything of a huge factor in the long run for the East. I don't think really the Bucks will worry about them too much.
I actually entirely disagree. Not to cut you off, but I think Miami is if not one of the biggest surprises this NBA season. And now at the deadline, they make the most of it. They go get a guy like Andre Iguodala. Their young core has been absolutely impressive so far this year, and they've already got a guy who's in the MVP race, named Jimmy Butler. They're in the 4th seed, as you mentioned. They have about, 32 games left, or 30 games left, rather, to make that jump. The two teams in front of them, Toronto, Boston, neither of them made a trade at the deadline. Miami's intriguing to me. I'm high on them. I'm probably higher than the average folk. Obviously, you're not as high on them as I am. But I think the Andre Iguodala move was such a big one for Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying too in the fact that like Miami, they will I think make a little bit of a jump up there, but they probably could surpass Boston in the standings, maybe even Toronto if you even said if that's the case. But
Toronto's hot.
Toronto's hot.
Yeah,
They're
exactly. Yeah, it's kind of tough to see that right now.
that team right there, Toronto, even without Kawhi this year, they're still a team that could make a run all the way to the finals and even win it, in my opinion. They, weren't supposed to be good this year because they lost their best player. They lost their face of the franchise player, even though he was there for 1 year. They're still there, and they're still playing.
They have a better record at this point than they did last year.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
That's a huge point.
So I think Toronto, to me, Miami's good, don't get me wrong, but Toronto wasn't supposed to be here. I think they're the biggest surprise for me this year because they were supposed to make playoffs, but not as a 2 seed where they are right now. I think it'll be them and the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Interesting. Over on the Western Conference side of things, the Clippers making a late push, grabbing Marcus Morris from New York, the Knicks. The Lakers now in talks with Dion Waiters, potentially. Where do you see this West shaking up as we approach the All-Star break this weekend? Do you think it's the battle of the LA ultimately as we have about 30 games left?
I mean, you could see it as it right now. I mean, the Lakers are number 1, the Clippers are number 3 in the West, but you still got Denver up there, up in number 2 as well. They're still a very good team. I don't think they made really any moves this past week either in the trade deadline, but it's really hard to say that anything right now isn't out of LA's jurisdiction, whether it's either the Clippers or the Lakers.
Right.
In terms of both LA teams, I think there's a possibility that one of them will be. Or there's a possibility that both of those teams, honestly, could be in the Western Conference semifinals or even the finals.
Right.
Go Lakers.
Go Lakers. He's on the bandwagon.
Go Lakers.
For Kobe.
For Kobe.
Trade deadline this weekend. We'll leave it at that. We'll come back, of course, more next week. But now let's grab the bat. Let's take a swing. We're talking baseball as the MLB saw a huge deal take place about 2 weeks away from the start of spring training. In a 3-team deal, the Boston Red Sox traded outfielder and former MVP Mookie Betts and pitcher David Price to the LA Dodgers in exchange for prospects Jeter Downs and Connor Wong. The Minnesota Twins also got a piece of the pie as they sent a relief pitcher to LA in exchange for starter Kenta Maeda. What do you guys think of the deal, and are the Dodgers, I think this might be an easy one, the best team in the NL, the team to beat?
Yes, without a doubt, Dodgers are the best team. Their playoff odds, or their World Series odds of winning it, went from 7-1 to 4-1. That's crazy before the season even starts. 4-1 odds to make it to the World Series. Mookie, a huge piece for them in that outfield. Great player, just a guy that can just flat out play baseball at a high level. David Price, however, a lot of money, could be a liability factor there. He had some elbow problems earlier. It's hard to say where he's going to go. He could have a great year. He could have an okay year. He might not even play if he gets injured. But I think the Dodgers' best team in the NL without a doubt. Obviously, there's still some stuff that can happen. Nationals could get Nolan Arenado. So I would then pick them because they have a good pitching staff too. They have a good young team. Red Sox, it's hard to say. This trade was weird.
It was.
I don't know if you guys were paying attention to it. It fell through. Then the Twins had, the Dodgers weren't paying attention to who they were getting in the Twins prospect, their pitcher, he had problems. They backed out of it. Then they had to resurface the whole thing. It took 2 weeks to figure everything out.
About a week,
It just got figured out yesterday, 2 days ago. It was insane. The Dodgers, it's so hard to say. This was a weird trade deadline it's not even over yet, but it was a weird offseason for the MLB.
Yeah, and for something like this to happen only just a few weeks before spring training even starts as well, this is going to shake up things big time to answer your question about the National League as well. On paper, I do think the Dodgers definitely look like the best team with especially the guys that they have that are going to be in the lineup. But, I'm concerned about pitching too as well. Clayton Kershaw, every year in the postseason, a zombified version of it comes out every year. And, they lost Kenta Maeda, who was a reliable guy. The Twins are going to be able to help him out with putting them in their rotation, but it's going to be kind of a question mark as whether or not pitching will get them a long way.
Yeah, in adding David Price, Jackson kind of mentioned it. He's been shaky, but let's keep in mind, guys, the reigning NL MVP is on the Dodgers, Cody Bellinger. They team him up with a former AL MVP, Mookie Betts, and another trade that was supposed to go through fell through. Jock Peterson was going to get shipped across town to the Angels. That didn't go through. They'll likely still trade him. We'll see where that happens in the coming weeks. But as it stands right now, the Dodgers outfield is Jock Peterson, Cody Bellinger, and Mookie Betts.
Yikes.
Yikes
Crazy.
is
Scary.
right. They're
Scary.
absolutely
Scary lineup.
They are absolutely.
Do you think the Dodgers have the best lineup in the entire MLB?
They have to, right? I personally
They
do.
have to have one of the best.
I mean, when you've got a guy like Clayton Kershaw, and I know you said zombified version in the playoffs, he's still Clayton freaking Kershaw.
Right.
One of the best arms we've seen in the last 2 decades, if not longer. So they have to, right? I mean, look at those bats, those names I just mentioned, on top of a guy like Gavin Lux, who's young, 22 years old, 23 years old, out of Janesville. He's going to be making noise in the infield. Among a couple other names. So I think the Dodgers have to be the World Series favorites at this point, maybe aside from the Yankees.
I agree. It's going to be, if you had to pick it right now, Yankees, Dodgers, again, is this the year that the Dodgers are on the revenge tour after a couple years of losing in the World Series? Maybe. Who knows? They might choke first round again to a team that wasn't even supposed to be there, like the Nationals. It'll be interesting this year for them if they can get back to what they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, and even though they have a lot of talent, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best team overall. You know, it could depend on a lot of factors, especially come down the road in October. So right now, for the most part, yeah, definitely the Dodgers are definitely looking like a team to beat.
Spring training on the way. We're going to take our first time out right here on the Sports Hub. When we come back, the beginning of the XFL and college basketball talk. This is the Sports Hub on SBTV.
I just wanted to get good grades and to do well. But it also made me realize that I have a lot of career goals.
You're there to get a full college experience, not only participate in your sport, but participate in things outside of that. And it's all about growing as a person.
My coaches have helped me with figuring out who I really am. Their lives are dedicated for us to succeed.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball or it's not just about school, it's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
Welcome back in. We call this the Sports Hub. College basketball this year, folks, has been an unpredictable fairy tale. Already this year, especially since no high-ranking team is ever safe from an upset, it seems. In the AP rankings, Baylor hangs on to the #1 spot, followed by Gonzaga, Kansas, San Diego State, and Louisville to round up the top 5. San Diego State, though, the only undefeated team in the nation with a 24-0 record. Guys, I imagine the answer is yes, but I'll pose it anyway. It's got to be too early to say who the favorite is, right?
Oh, definitely, 100%. You know, we still have yet to go through the conference tournaments yet at the beginning of March, and right now, as it seems so far to be shaping out, it looks like, you know, a team like Baylor, Gonzaga, Kansas as well, even Duke, who's like around 6th or 7th, I think, in the AP rankings right now. Those teams every year you kind of expect to be up there in the top of the rankings, but, you know, at the same time, you got a team like San Diego State, undefeated team, only undefeated team left in the nation right now, 24-0. They're not necessarily, like, they got some really great talent. I think they have a chance to make some noise in the tournament later on in March, but it's tough right now to say exactly what looks like the #1 team in the nation, who really might look like the team that might be hoisting up the championship trophy in April. It's really hard to tell right now. I can't say for sure.
Jackson, it seems like I say this every February, but I'll let you answer it. Does this seem like one of the weirdest NCAA college basketball seasons in recent memory? Because I feel like I'm saying that every February, but this is a really weird year, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, no team is safe.
Right.
Which is crazy because normally you got like 5 good teams. All the 1 seeds and then maybe a good 2 seed. It's usually like Kansas, Nova, Duke, Kentucky,
right,
and then
like
someone else. You know, someone like that. Baylor, Zaga, San Diego State, Louisville, and Dayton.
Yeah, Dayton.
Dayton's a great team. And even Seton Hall. That's top 10 team right there. That's crazy. This March is going to be unpredictable for what's going to happen, and we honestly could see, quite the run. Like, I'm not going to say it's going to be like a Steph Curry type run because we don't have that type of player right now. We could see that. You never know what happens in March. It's always crazy.
Heroes are made in March.
Exactly. But we could see a team that never gets a lot of credit, and we could see them make a championship run like Seton Hall, like Dayton, like San Diego State, who's never usually there late in March. It could happen this year. Don't be surprised if it does. It's going to be very fun to watch college basketball in March. And honestly, if you're making a bracket, don't even care if you lose because it's just like, good luck.
Grab a lot of 11s over 6s and so on and so forth.
Pick a 16 seed over a 1 seed, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't do that.
Why not?
Don't do that.
Why not?
I mean, it's happened before.
It's happened one time.
Out of what, 300? Don't ever do that.
Exactly. But this could be the year that we see it again.
I'm not even giving into this. But no, I think a perfect gauge of how this year has gone was Saturday's game between Duke and University of North Carolina. North Carolina, doo-doo this year. They are no good, but they bring Duke to overtime. Duke needs not one but 2 buzzer beaters to beat their arch rival. It just shows you that anything can happen. I know it's a rivalry game. It was at UNC. But regardless, it's just one of those years where you sit back, you watch college basketball, and you think, anything can truly happen. So we'll keep
like a 16 seed beating a 1 seed.
It's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
It might happen. You never know. There's 4 chances.
We'll leave Jackson's
There's 4 chances.
Over 2
college
maybe.
basketball in the rear view. The XFL is back 19 years later, and its first weekend of the season was incredibly fun to watch. All 8 teams in action between Saturday and Sunday with many former college and NFL stars and players playing in the league. The XFL also distinguishing itself by taking different approaches to things such as kickoffs and point-after conversions. So, guys, I know you both watched it. You know I watched it. What did you think? What were the big takeaways from week number 1 in the XFL?
I gotta say, for me personally, just seeing just how the XFL, the game works. The kickoff rule is really unique because nobody is allowed to move until the ball is touched or is caught by a player. So that also it makes kickoffs not only safer but also still gives you that chance to see some big plays happening down the field during the kickoff as well. So I think that's a great move on the XFL's part to do something like that. And I like the 3-point, 2-point, and 1-point conversion thing too as well. The number of yards depends on the number of points that you want to convert as well. So there could be a chance you score a touchdown, 6 points, and then I believe it's from the 5 or 10 yard line. You get another 3 points as well after that. So you could score 9 points on a touchdown, which is really, really cool as well. And also I should mention too, the investment that's been put in the XFL has been much better than it was the first time around. Vince McMahon said he was only going to do $100 million for 1 year for the original league back in 2001, whereas now he's doing 3 years of investment for $500 million as well. So he's hoping to see a long-term product in the long run, and I'm hopeful to see it continue to be successful in the long run.
Well, I'm gonna make a comment off that right before we get to you, Jackson. We saw the AAF a year ago, right? Only a year of preparation. The XFL's return was announced in 2017, so that's about 2.5 years of time to build it up. The first week of ticket sales for the XFL already topped all 8 weeks of the AAF a year ago. Jackson, your takeaway from the first week of XFL football?
What I loved about it is we got to see how the game works inside of the lines. The replay review, you get to see the guy in the booth. He's going at it. Yeah, he had an Xbox. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Hear the referees talking about what's going down. I want to say the guy in the Vipers, when he got tossed for throwing that punch, that was awesome because you don't get to see that in the NFL. You get to see in the XFL, okay, he's going to get tossed because he threw a punch. The first penalty gets declined, but he's gone, so add the 15 yards. That was cool to me to see that because you understand what's being said, how it's being determined. Yeah, the 3-point conversion, 2-point conversion, 1-point conversion is awesome too because 17-point game, still a 2-possession game. That's pretty cool to see that too. And the sideline interviews, F-bomb 20 minutes in? 20 minutes in?
Existence.
Exactly. That's crazy. That'll never happen. Well, I shouldn't say never happen in the NFL, but rare to happen in the NFL where we're going to have sideline interviews after something happens. Guy misses a field goal. What happened? Well, I missed it.
Right.
Yeah. Duh. But that's crazy. That's awesome. The St. Louis celebration after they won the game, shotgunning Bud Light seltzers. Roger Goodell's head probably exploded yesterday 10 different times. I'm not going to say it's better because Alex would throw a fit, but
It's not better than the NFL.
It's not. It's not.
It's fun. It's
But
entertaining.
it's entertaining to
My
watch.
head's going to explode.
Good. But it's entertaining to watch because this is a people's game now. And I think it's interesting to see all these things happening, like the sideline interviews, like these different, conversions that you can do, how the game works for the referees. Pat McAfee was on the field during the game.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Vince McMahon, a king and genius when it comes to the world of sports entertainment, and clearly no shortage of that in the XFL. The XFL regular season will be 10 weeks long as it runs through March and April, followed by a playoff round of the top 2 teams from each division. The season concludes in late April with the XFL Championship between the East and the West divisions. We are going to take our final timeout. On the other side, we'll do some good old buy or sell. This is the Sports Hub on SB TV.
UW-Stevens Point is home.
It's a university where professors know your name and get you involved in research.
They inspire us to realize big dreams.
At UW-Stevens Point, sustainability is what we stand for.
Our beautiful campus encourages exploration, developing new fields, and problem solving for the real world.
It's a great place to launch your career.
UW-Stevens Point is home.
Apply today at uwsp.edu.
College has given me the flexibility to pursue my passions and my interests, and I've recreated my identity for myself aside from just being an athlete.
My greatest personal discovery has been that I am capable of doing things that I didn't know I was capable of doing.
To be able to study what I wanted to and continue to play the sport I love, all of those things came together very nicely in one package in Division III.
What's up, folks? Welcome back into the Sports Hub. Alex Quasimodo Strouf with you alongside Michael Wengrzyn and Jackson Jirik. Let's jump right into buy or sell. First one, boys. The Bucks will lose no more than 12 games this season.
Well, Quasimodo, to answer your question right there, I am going to buy that because even though there's still like 30 games left in the season right now, there hasn't been a point where I'd say like, okay, the Bucks are maybe going to hit like a rough stretch. I really haven't seen that point yet in the season, and hopefully don't hit that point yet in the season. So I'm going to say they will lose around 12, but not exactly go past 12. So I'll buy it.
They've got 7 right now. Jackson?
I'm going to buy it. I think they're going to go 27-3 in the next 30 games. There's 30, right? 30?
Yeah, 30 left.
About 30-ish.
30. I'm going to say 27-3. They're going to finish with a 10-loss record.
So you think they're going to tie the Bulls of the 90s, 72-10?
No, they lost 9 games.
The Warriors were the one that lost 9 games.
Yeah.
The Bulls lost 10.
Yeah.
The Bulls lost 10.
You're right.
Yeah. I usually am.
That's debatable. But I think that they will lose 10 games.
Okay.
They'll tie it.
I will also buy this. I think it's interesting. I think I'm more on Mike's side. I think it's going to be 12-ish, 11 or 12. They're rolling. They have been all year. They haven't shown, as you said, a real sign of slowing down. Now, something we didn't get to talk about a lot before, and we've got a few extra minutes, so I want to jump into it, is the Bucks. They were chillaxed. They were relaxed. They felt no pressure last Thursday during the NBA trade deadline. Didn't make a move. You're good with this, right? Mike, we'll start with you.
I would say yeah. I mean, probably the only guy. I think I saw your video on this too, Alex, about this for the Cream City Report or whatever it is. Yeah, the only guy that really the Bucks probably were thinking about dealing potentially was Eric Bledsoe, but even then, I don't think they really had anybody in mind that they were looking at sending Bledsoe to. So I'm fine with it for the most part. I really, if it was at a desperate situation where if like Toronto and Milwaukee were closer together, I would say, yeah, try to go after somebody else. But I think at this position, I think they're okay. Hopefully that it doesn't come back to haunt them in the playoffs, but we'll see. I think for right now, it's fine.
Jackson?
Yeah, I agree with him.
That's it?
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
Great insight. Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Eric Bledsoe was the one guy that was being discussed, but it shows me something that John Horst and Mike Budenholzer are confident with the pieces they have. Obviously, when you're posting, at the time on Thursday, they were 43-7 through 50 games. When you're posting a record like that, I assume you're probably pretty happy with where your team's at. But they showed only relaxation and comfortability with their squad thus far, and clearly they have the confidence to get to either the Eastern Conference Finals again or even further to the finals. Next, buy or sell. The former Steelers backup quarterback Landry Jones is the face of the XFL.
If you listen to, or if you read about Landry Jones' story, actually, he was a backup quarterback on the Steelers, and then he ended up trying to find some teams. He was trying to, he was in the market to try to find a new team, but then he ended up working as a construction worker before he got that call from the Dallas Renegades. So, actually, I think with this story or whatever, with the XFL success that that's had accumulated so far, I would say yes for the most part right now. But, you could also maybe consider Cardale Jones as well. He's a notable name.
That's my guy right there. That's my
guy. I guess you guys are going to sell that?
Yeah. I was going to sell it and say what you just said. Jones is my guy, not Landry, but Cardale. He's going to be the guy. Super way too early pick to win it, Cardale Jones. That's it.
I agree with Cardale Jones. Obviously, he played in the first XFL game. That was played on Saturday afternoon. I'm happy with the former Ohio State Buckeye. I'm not an Ohio State fan by any means, but clearly he's the face. You're going to have a big face or multiple developed through the course of the season, but early I will say Cardale Jones. We'll go to the last one, but we should elaborate on this a little bit because I know you're both big baseball fans. It's pretty open-ended. Buy or sell, the MLB will see a major rule change take place over the course of the next few seasons, let's say 3.
Yeah, I actually think this will happen. I'm going to buy that. There's been talks about, I don't know, this might sound crazy, but there's been talks about maybe having the DH be implemented in the National League, and I think a lot of baseball purists would lose their minds if something like that was even considered.
Ooh.
I like the DH in the AL, so let's just keep it that way. Okay. But I think ways to speed up the game a little bit, we could see that possibly.
Jackson?
Going off the DH thing, the only reason I don't like that is because when Bartolo Colon hit his home run, it was one of the single greatest moments
that was
I've
awesome.
ever seen. And we love pitchers who rake.
That's true.
It's great to see like Mad Bum hit, Zach Greinke, Clayton Kershaw. I'm trying to think of guys that can hit the ball really well who are pitchers. Bartolo Colon's not in the league anymore. But I think the speeding up the game could happen. I know they tried that already with their timer. Will they change that even more to less time for the pitchers? Maybe. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But I'm going to buy it. But I think for me, it should be more on the side of like electronics because of the whole cheating scenario that went down. Like no TVs in the dugouts, none of that stuff. I think that needs to be implemented first before anything else changes rule-wise in the game, like DHing or speeding up the game, just because what has caused more problem in the last 5 years is the cheating scandal than the DH or the time frame.
We always talk about baseball purists, the unwritten rule of baseball. I think the DH spot in the NL could be a great addition. However, you can still have the option of hitting your pitcher. You roll your eyes at me. That was adorable. I think obviously something's bound to change, especially with what we've seen this offseason, where 10% of managers in the league lose their job. Obviously, Rob Manfred and company are going to make a move to make something happen, make something change in the MLB. I don't know what it'll be. We don't know what it'll be exactly, but something will come of this. That's all the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank Michael. I'd like to thank Jackson, as well as our beautiful technical staff for all their hard work that they do to make this show possible. Be sure to check out our Facebook page at SBTV-UWSP Television. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SBTV_UWSP, as well as our SBTV Sports Twitter. Just look up SBTV Sports. Go to the UWSP Athletics page for all things Pointer Sports. Thanks for watching. Alex, Mike, Jackson, and company. We'll see you next week on the Sports Hub.